It's time for some Land Rover action. We haven't had a Land Rover in the shop in a while, especially an older Discovery. Let's get started. This is a 2001 Land Rover Discovery 2. This is not the Discovery 1. As you can see, it's got a little bit extra length back here, and there's some design changes. You remember the white one we had, Mrs. Wizard?
I loved that one. That's the one I miss. I wish we kept that one.
It was a Discovery 1. I believe it was like a 96 or a 7, 8, somewhere around in there.
I think it's a 98.
98, okay. I really do miss it as well, and maybe someday we'll have another one. This one runs and drives fine, but the customer says when you turn the key on, the right turn signal stays on for eternity and will not stop. The left turn signals do nothing, and there's some fuses that have burned out, and they try to put some circuit breakers or do something, and it literally melted it all to hell. And that's when the customer said, I'm done doing this game. I'm taking it to Omega and let them figure this out, because who knows what's wrong. So let's kind of dive into this, and I'll play the game and see if you guys can figure out what's wrong with this Land Rover. All right, guys, so here we go. The car just rolled into the shop. The left turn signal does nothing. The right turn signal stays on forever, as long as the key is on. Also, the power locks quit working. They've had things melting. They've smelled burning smells. What in the world is going on here? So let's play the little game here. Is it number one, just blown fuses? Or a connection with the fuses, something going on with the fuses alone? Is it number two, a severe short circuit that has melted the wiring harness all to hell, basically? Is it number three, there's an issue in the doors that have short circuited and caused some issues going on with all the things we see going on here? Or is it number four, a blown head gasket? They all have blown head gaskets. I'm really surprised this one doesn't, amazingly.
You just gave away the answer.
Okay, so obviously it's not a blown head gasket, but I'll let you guys in the comments let us know what you think is wrong with this Land Rover. Let's go ahead and dive in and see what we can find out is wrong with this vehicle. I've actually already figured out what's wrong. It literally took me 2 or 3 minutes and I got to the bottom of it, but let me show you some of the process that I used. So I'll go ahead and turn on the ignition. And we see the right turn signal is blinking. If you turn it to the left position, nothing happens. And I was checking all the lights, checking, turn on the headlights. Those seem to be working, high beams and low beams. I checked the park lamps. One thing I noticed that if I turn on the hazards, all the turn signal bulbs work just fine. So that told me that from the turn signal and the wiring out to the bulbs is fine. My problem is in the dash. So I started removing some panels. I removed actually these clamshells that are actually on the steering column, and I didn't have to go very deep, and it's disastrous. Let's take a look. So as you can see, underneath the steering column, there's some harnesses for the turn signals and whatnot and various things. It has melted severely. There's a major short circuit going on here. It could have possibly started a fire. It was really bad. Let me remove the knee bolster and we can take a look even further. Before we dive in there, this is actually a circuit breaker that the customer tried to put in the fuse position to see what's going on, and it actually melted it to pieces. It's like a blob now. So that told me when I saw this, there's a very bad short circuit. Let's remove the knee bolster. This is what we just saw before. I've actually removed some of the structure away, and you can see that harness that was melted all to hell. It goes back further, all the way back to that really thick, giant bundle of wiring harness. And I actually removed some shielding and looked inside of the main harness just from what I can see from here, and there's actually more melted wires. So in the little game we just played, was it a fuse issue? No, it was not. We can see clearly it's a lot deeper than that. Was it a door issue? Something wrong with the door locks melted or something going on there? Possible. We don't know yet. But it definitely, as you can see, was number 2, or B, I guess I should call it. The harness is melted severely. It's very bad. Like I just mentioned to you a little bit ago, it goes deep inside the dash. There's multiple melted wires. So I stopped there. I don't need to go any further. I don't need to tear anything apart. It's very likely that the customer may not even want to go any further. So we just called the customer, and it was possible, based on what we saw, that they may not want to go any further. I know this is going to be expensive. I said, look, bro, we're going to have to pull the whole dash out because God knows what's all melted in there. There could be actuators. There could be things that could catch on fire and burn your Rover to the ground. I don't know exactly what's going on in there. I just can't see anything. I'm not going to pull your dash and start discovering things if you're not going to pay for it. I was anticipating the customer would say, no, forget it, just park it outside, but that's not the answer we got. He said, $2,000, $3,000, whatever. Fix my Land Rover. I was like, okay, we'll be happy to do it. I just needed to get that clarification from the customer. I don't like surprise bills any more than you guys do. I don't run stuff up and say, here, deal with it. We like to call people beforehand and let them know what's going on. So I'm actually going to have Grimes go ahead and pull the entire dash and pull everything out. And here in a few seconds, which will just be a few seconds for you guys, will actually probably be a day or two pass, but then we're going to dive in and see how bad is the carnage inside of this thing. So I'll go get Grimes. Before we dive into the Land Rover, actually Mrs. Wizard has another batch of a really awesome artwork that she just sold tons of, so much so that she had to make more.
It's been fun, guys. Most of this is from the 4L Slippy.
Yep, these are all 4L60E parts made into lamps and all kinds of really cool stuff.
Yeah, let me show you just real quick. So here we have more earrings. These actually came from the ES300. This is from the front pump from the transmission. So here, this little guy has a roundel from my BMW. Yes, this is from my BMW, the Z3. Doesn't do anything but hold down papers, maybe hold a pen or so, but this is fun. It just sits there and goes spin, spin, spin. This guy, again, is from the 4L Slippy. A lovely little candy dish. Got different lamps. This one is fun. It has another roundel from my BMW on it.
This one actually looks like an HEI distributor out of a small block Chevy, Mrs. Wizard.
Wow, that's pretty precise. Actually, it is. It's from that K10 we just had in. When he took off that distributor, I was like, hey, I'm taking that bottom spindle. So if we take this guy, spin him over, yeah, distributor cap.
Yep.
It was right there.
Pretty cool.
But now he's a great little lamp. But there's lots more details on this. If you guys want to hear about it, go to the link in the description below. Check out the eBay auction. It's for 10 days. Perfect for Black Friday shopping for those of you who don't want to venture out to the mall, And maybe you got some gearhead in your family who needs something right here, Just throwing it out there, Anyway, let's get back to that Land Rover.
So I know you guys love carnage, and you love it when we play the game called Carts, full of parts. We definitely have that today. Just to find this wiring issue, which is extensive, we'll show you here in a minute, all this stuff had to come out to even get to the main harness. Let's take a look at what's all on this cart. So here we have the steering wheel, clock spring. Here's our actual stock that has the multifunction switch on it. There's some power seat switches. There's our shifter and actually our bezel for the shifter. All kinds of other bezels. Here we have some framework for the dash, some duct work, some panels, the glove box, and also the fuse panel or knee bolster for the driver's side.
Wow, it's a good thing I bought all these carts for you.
Yes, this side actually has 3 levels. It's a 3-story cart. Here we have the actual shroud or the actual cluster surround with all the little buttons and things. Here's our cup holders. Here's some structure pieces. These are the clamshells around the steering column. Here we have the center console and some other little pieces, the armrest. This is the ignition for the key. And then we have a 3rd level. And down here we have the actual dash pad with the radio and all the climate control. And there's a harness inside of this, but the harness that goes inside this dash is not damaged or melted. This one's actually okay. Here's our good old TV cart. If you guys remember, some of you back in school when we actually had carts with a television, a big CRT style TV on top and a VCR. These are actually those carts. Mrs. Wizard found them on an auction years ago. and we got them like $5 a piece.
Something like that. They were dirt cheap. And
Really, really cheap.
so handy though.
They are. They're very handy. It's proof that you don't have to spend $500 per cart to have all the carts you need for your shop. You can spend $5. And my techs really love these. So here we are at this next cart. We have the actual radio itself, some duct work, and then we have 2 more levels, which are getting ready to fill because Grimes is currently pulling the HVAC case out. We'll take a look at that, and then we'll explore how bad is the wiring melting on here. All right, here we go. The big last piece that needs to come out.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're hoping we didn't have to go that far, but yeah, as it turns out, the melted circuit goes a lot further back than just right up to it.
Yeah, we were kind of hoping we would pull a few panels off, we would find the end of the melting, and possibly that would be it. But the more that we would tear stuff apart, it just got more and deeper and deeper and deeper. This one is really, really bad. I'll have Grimes show you guys around the harness. We'll go ahead and jump into the interior. And yes, this is one of those cases where like you walk in on a loved one during open heart surgery and you're like, what is going on in here? It's really that bad. So let's go take a look. Oh my gosh.
So yeah, we had to get a little deep into it, a lot more than we thought. So once we cut the harness away from here, cut all the tape and everything, we found quite a bit of melted wiring back inside of the harness. This one, I mean, this is missing the insulation altogether, and
oh my,
actually has broken the other half of it's there. When I took the HVAC box out, I found that one poking out.
Look at all those melted, it goes all the way across.
Yep, and also goes up here to the cabin fuse box, where we had that one fuse that was completely melted. Mm-hmm. So yeah, this is that circuit.
Oh my goodness.
What's left of it anyway. Also looks like they might have had some water leaks or something in there, causing some corrosion. But yeah, we've got a big congealed mess that I've separated out.
So this actually
here
goes into the column up in here.
Yeah, so this runs up into the column, goes to all the ignition switch, all of the steering wheel controls, everything like that. And then going further back, that chases all the way back to BCM. And
look at this little...
Yeah, it looks... So these look like junction plugs, but it looks like all of the carnage kind of stops there, which...
Okay.
I'm going to dig a little bit further into that just to make sure, but yeah, it looks like there's probably, a dozen wires that we'll have to replace, just kind of one by one, run these back through the harness and then put it all back together.
That's kind of what I was afraid of, is that once this started melting, it just transferred over to more wires and it carried on all through. This is the main body harness. This is not the dash harness, guys. It's the main body harness.
Yeah, the dash harness actually stays with the fascia, as they call it.
Yeah.
And yeah, the main body harness goes up to the engine compartment fuse box, and then through here up to the ABS module and a couple others, and then all the way back here to the airbag control module and all of your other electronics back here in the back.
This was pretty bad. I've seen some melted wires in my day, but this one, the amount of teardown it took to find it, it was really, really bad.
Yeah, that and the insulation, it all became kind of one unit, and that's when the shorts started. And
it just gets worse from there.
Yeah, and judging from where it originated, this is actually the shift lock circuit, which when it was dropped off, the customer actually explained that they had issues with the shift lock. I also pulled the ignition switch because it melted the switch inside of it, where it detects whether or not the key's in and energizes that circuit. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of digging, a lot of testing of every one of the components that's attached to these circuits, just to make sure that they're all good.
So I got a question for you. Do you know of any professional level tech that would do all this for $200 or $300?
Absolutely not.
No. I know they're going to say that in the comments. Oh, no, a guy, dude, no. No.
Yeah, two or $300. I'd tell you to go somewhere else.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is going to be very, very expensive.
Yep.
All right, well, I guess we'll talk about the steps forward from here. I'll let you do some more digging and see what else you find, and I'll talk about what we're going to do.
All right.
Good work. Well, before we talk about that, why don't you give us an interior review, Mrs. Wizard?
Okay. Okay, ladies and gents, we have no idea how many miles are on here because, well, the entire dash is gone. There's no cracks in it. We can see that for sure, but we actually have absolutely nothing there. We do have some lovely studs sticking out from the back wall here, but here's some of that close-up wiring. Here's where the steering wheel should have gone. As we move over, well, we've got the hump. Underneath is our drive shaft, and here's our, well, where our gear selector should have been. Oh, but we do have something recognizable. We do have our parking brake still there. But as we move over, you'll see lots more carnage where things should have been, like glove boxes and controls. There's where our HVAC system would have gone through the firewall, but again, not here at all. We do have some lovely leather seats, but that goes up to our light bar, which we can't get any further past because it's kind of in the way, but it's actually in pretty good shape for the age that the vehicle is in and how many times you have to hop in and out of this thing, because this is a definite hop. Back seat's looking great. It's got a 40-60 split. Looking good there. And our headliner's in good shape. And it does have dual sunroofs on the top as well, and they're looking really good. So here's where our steering wheel would have been and how we end all of our segments together, but it's not here. So let's go figure out what's going on. And I think Wizard has some shocking, scary information to share with us.
So did you guys enjoy that interior review, or the lack thereof? There's really not much going on in there. But I'll give you guys a little bit more look at the carnage. It's really, really bad. Now, let's talk about where do we go from here, and how much is this going to cost? So there is the option that we could put a good used body harness in. I don't like that option because a shop I used to work at, we actually had a Dodge Ram that had something similar happen, and the owner of the shop that I worked for then put a good, well, supposedly was a good harness in, and ended up having some breaks in the wires, and he had to pull the dash all apart on his dime under warranty. I really am not interested in that. What does a new body harness cost for this vehicle? They actually can get them from England. They're out of stock. It says out of stock, but there's a few other places I searched that may have one. Here's a picture here. That's kind of a diagram of what it looks like, and here's how much it cost. Over 4,000 pounds, which is probably closer to $5,000 just for the body harness, a new one. That's not feasible. That's just not even feasible at all. So the only option we really have to verify and know that we're going to put this back together and we don't have to pull it back apart again is Grimes is going to have to get in there wire by wire by wire and replace each of them, which there is no labor hours on the book time on that. In this specific scenario, I charge hour by hour. We did call the customer beforehand, and then definitely now we've kind of told them this could easily approach $3,000 or more because we had to pull the whole dash out and then spend probably 2 days solid going through all these wires and rewiring everything. And we don't know, we might find a little more as we're digging. The customer said, go for it. Because even though I could go buy another Land Rover for $4 or $5 grand, then I'd have to swap over all these parts and all these pieces. But we are getting precariously close to the fine line, or even I would draw the line. If we get in there and find out modules are fried, which is going to make the price go up even higher, it's possible that the customer can just come take it as is, buy another Land Rover, and swap over all of their off-road goodies onto that Land Rover and be about the same price. It's just kind of what do you want to do? What do you prefer? Let us know in the comments. What would you do in this situation? 3, 4, who knows how many thousands of dollars to fix this problem, or 5 or 6 to buy another Land Rover and swap everything over.
Okay, Wizard. We know the head gasket isn't blowing now, but has it been done at this point, or is that something he might even have to worry about as well?
I'm not sure. I don't know if it's ever been done. It's currently not blown. It's doing very well. We checked that before we dived in, and it does just fine. The customer is not concerned about perfection on this vehicle. They take it off-road. They take it driving up creeks and all kinds of things. They just want the basic functions to work again, which they won't with all the melted wiring we just saw. They want those things solved so their turn signals work, they don't get pulled over, they don't get in trouble with the law. This is very, very expensive. But we got the go-ahead. We are going to fix it. I just cross my fingers and hope that we don't find more carnage and more damage. But it doesn't appear that it's going to be that bad, but it is still really pretty bad.
Okay, so what would have caused this? How did this happen?
Something like Grimes mentioned. As you can see, this is the actual ignition lock, and these two wires coming out are melted. There's a little sensor inside of there, you can actually see it. It's a micro switch. There's a few wires on the steering column that looked like that were just severely melted. All it took is one of these items to short circuit to ground. And only two wires got super hot. But they got so hot that they melted the adjacent wires. And now they melt through the insulation. Now they're able to contact where they shouldn't. And then the short continues on to that circuit. And it gets hot. And just keeps going. Luckily, like he mentioned, there's a bundle of wire, 12, 15 wires that need to be replaced. We're just hoping it's not more than that. This could have caused a fire. It's very possible it could have caused a fire. We definitely don't want that to happen to this vehicle. It runs and drives fine. We don't want it to burn to the ground. We definitely wanted to do a video for you guys showing you the carnage. We'll have Grimes go ahead and start digging in and see what he finds. We've got a whole bunch of, I actually have a box of rolls of wiring that has red, blue, striped, green, all the different colors. So he'll get to go through and just start repairing all the wires. Then we can put all this stuff back together, which while we have it apart, we are going to do a heater core and all those things. We might as well because it's all apart. It would be foolish not to. But make sure to click in the link in the description below to check out Mrs. Wizard's artwork that she's done. It's going to go for sale. Also check out her channel, Mrs. Wizard's Way. She's got some videos there. We also have the Amazon affiliates link that lists all the tools we use in the shop for sale. We get a small cut when we purchase, and we appreciate it. And make sure to hit the subscribe button here because we have many more cool videos to come. Thanks for watching.